There are moments on this stage that no one sees coming. Moments that stop time. Moments that remind every single person in that arena, and everyone watching at home, why this show exists. What happened the night duo Stardust walked onto the AGT stage was one of those moments. And it almost never happened at all. Vlada Kamyshnikova and Yevhenii Yemelianenko are not just performers. They are husband and wife. Two people who built their entire life around a single dream, to fly. Not metaphorically. Literally. Together. On stage. With their bodies as the instrument and the sky as the limit. They began their journey in Ukraine, training every day in gyms that had no heat in winter, pushing through pain that would make most people quit. They performed across Europe, competing in talent shows in Lithuania, Ukraine, Indonesia, Spain, France, the Czech Republic, Germany, country after country, stage after stage, building something extraordinary one performance at a time. And then came Britain's Got Talent. Simon Cowell's show. The biggest stage they had ever stood on. They gave everything they had. Every spin, every lift, every death-defying grab 30 feet in the air. And when it was over, Simon looked at them and said they were not good enough. Those words broke something in them. Vlada stood backstage with tears she was trying to hold back. Yevhenii put his arm around her and said nothing, because what could you say? They had given their lives to this. They had sacrificed comfort, safety, a normal life, for this. And the most powerful judge in the world had looked at their dream and dismissed it. Most people would have stopped. Most people would have taken that rejection as a sign from the universe that it was time to walk away. But duo Stardust is not most people. They went back to the gym. They went back to the drawing board. They looked at every single frame of their performance and asked themselves the hardest question artists can ask: what can we do better? They trained harder than ever before. They added new elements. They pushed into territories that were genuinely dangerous. They built something that had never been seen before. And then they made a decision that took real courage. They came to America. They came to AGT. And they came to face Simon Cowell one more time. When they walked out and Simon saw their faces, the tension in the room was immediate. He had already told the other judges quietly, they weren't very good. He was bracing for disappointment. The audience could feel it. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. And then the music started. Vlada soared into the air, caught by Yevhenii's hands, spinning at a speed that made people gasp. The crowd leaned forward. The judges sat up straight. Simon's expression began to shift, slowly at first, like a man who doesn't want to admit he's wrong, and then all at once, like a man who cannot help himself. Because what he was watching was not the act he had rejected. It was something else entirely. Something transformed. Something that had been forged in the fire of rejection and come out the other side as pure gold. By the time Vlada's heels lit up with fireworks and the arena erupted, Simon Cowell was on his feet. And he was not alone. Every single person in that building was standing. Screaming. Crying. Because they all understood what they had just witnessed. They had watched two people refuse to let failure define them. They had watched love and discipline and courage do something miraculous. Sofia Vergara stood up with tears in her eyes. She looked at them on that stage and said she didn't believe for 1 second it was Simon's criticism that made them great. She said it was in them all along. She said they knew what to do. She said they deserved this. And then she slammed her hand down on the golden buzzer. The confetti fell like gold rain. Vlada and Yevhenii held each other in the middle of the stage, surrounded by golden light and the roar of thousands of people who had just watched something they would never forget. Simon leaned over to Sofia, half joking, trying to take credit. She looked at him and said, simply, "They're mine." And they were. But really, in that moment, they belonged to everyone who has ever been told no. Everyone who has ever been rejected. Everyone who has ever stood in front of someone powerful and been made to feel small. Because Duo Stardust proved something that night that no judge, no panel, no single voice of authority can ever take away. Your dream does not die when someone rejects it. It only gets stronger. And if you go back to work, if you refuse to quit, one day you will stand in the middle of that stage with gold raining down on your head, and the very person who doubted you will be on his feet, applauding everything you are. That is the power of not giving up. That is the power of love. That is the power of Duo Stardust.